I Am the Specialist of the Strange, written by Dakota Frandsen, narrated by Douglas MacArthur, published by Bonkers Network LLC. Section 6, Officially an Adult, Part 2. March 14th, 2017. Last-minute preparations for the Thailand venture have started with slight interference due to my debit card being compromised by some jackass in Florida using it to pay off court fines. Real ironic. I got the emails that my card had been declined, and I did as I was supposed to in order to stop further usage. 3 attempts were made on the 13th and a 4th attempt on the 14th. Only one charge was reflected in my account. Being my bank statement reflected a court payment service ran in Florida, I was able to quickly find some contact information on the firm in hopes it will help push things forward. I also made a note with my bank to let them know further contact may be difficult as I will not be in the country and just checking my emails might be an issue pending our hotel Wi-Fi signals. March 16, 2017. Censored was invited to Censored birthday party on the 11th, and my mother finally mentions what Censored had to say about what had taken place during the freeze-out I had placed on my paternal family. She mentions that her asthma is triggered every time she is in contact with her mother, my stepmother, because of the drugs. This will be my ticket in to finally bring punishment. I will need to test my siblings for contact high. I have opened backup communications in order to get my re-establish the mission, as I have caused enough confusion to mask my true intentions. If this is successful, I may lose my family, but it will be for the best. I can't keep doing this dance. Censored had once again came to try and instigate an altercation, all because I was the one who got his brother arrested. This likely getting him banned from the store. I notified management to keep an eye on him. Whether or not they choose to listen is their folly. I am not really concerned about him because my Thailand adventure is ever so close. March 18th to 20th, 2017. Finally, the Thailand trip is among me. I had a long travel day ahead, from leaving town early to avoid the traffic and a potential call-in from any one of my jobs to the flights and long layovers. This trip will take me through San Francisco and Hong Kong before finally reaching Bangkok. Since our group was spread throughout the entire state of Idaho, we all had different meetup locations. We were split into 2 groups, one that gathered at Spokane, the other was to meet up in Boise. I was in the Boise group. All in all, there were 24 of us in total. I had utilized my resources to at least get an idea of who I needed to look for while we were all gathering for our eventual meetup in San Francisco. I only knew 4 people from my past tours, which makes for an easy ride in, but usually for someone in my position, I would like to have somewhat of an idea of who I am going to be with for these excursions. Utilizing email addresses attached to our group leaders' messages, I was able to track down just one face, Censored. It wasn't until everyone had finally arrived at the Boise airport that was supposed to, I was able to start reading everyone. The group dynamic seems to be a good one. Several of the kids didn't travel alone. If they did, they didn't take much time to find someone to bond with. It is a good measure. So far, I have only identified 4 possible problem children, should an incident take place, all of which seem to suffer from mental complications that even put stress on their parents. One shows nervousness when in one location for very long and complains about people taking pictures of him without consent, which is only irritating since gigs like this require both, and the others just show possible signs of autism. I try not to judge, and profiling is just a habit that never turns off once you've walked a similar path to my own. Upon arrival in San Francisco, we located our group leader, who tried to meet us at a rendezvous point. Those who were with him at the Spokane group were already waiting at our next gate. We had managed to make it this far without incident, except for a young lady, Censored, mistaking a random stranger for our group leader from behind and proceeded to sneak up behind him. I will vouch that the man did bear a striking resemblance, but her approaching the matter like that could have easily instigated a hostile situation. With threats of possible ISIS attacks and the methodology showing anyone with authority issues as likely to be recruited, I must stay alert. Once everyone was settled, We played card games and charged our electronics to pass the time. From San Francisco to Hong Kong was an over 12-hour flight, along with the 6-hour layover. I was both crammed on and was barely able to get to sleep. I managed to get in about 2, maybe 3 hours in, as well as a few 10-minute naps spread in between. From Hong Kong to Bangkok was easier to manage as it was only about 3 hours. In Bangkok, we crossed paths with a group out of New Jersey, who was, I believe, actually on their way back home after one more stay. My Idaho-based group seemed to have been all placed on the same floor, so in the event of an incident, I can reach most of them in a timely manner. All of them don't seem to possess much self-defense skill. Some only do so when provoked. I may have to utilize them. Once we got settled into our hotel room, we were supposed to meet up to visit a nearby shopping area to get some food, since meals were not covered for our first night in town. Unfortunately for me, I had overslept my alarm. In my defense, I was hardly able to get any sleep on the way over here, and the second I got into a shower and was able to relax, my sleep deprivation took over. Unfortunately for me, I got too comfortable to the point my nightmares started to rear their ugly head. This time it was a plane crash back on U.S. soil, and kept with the theme of not being fast enough to save an innocent. I woke up as the bodies were burning. March 21st, 2017. It appears one member of my travel group has already come down with illness. One of the girls seemed to have contracted a strain of the flu virus before reaching here, and it decided to make its move last night while they visited the shopping mall. We let her rest at the hotel, and her condition seems to be improving, but as expected, she is nervous around our more exotic food choices. In just hearing one has succumbed to illness, though made obvious the manner of infection was different, my nerves have been set on edge as well. Regardless, I cannot let it ruin a good trip. Earlier today, we paid a visit to both the Grand Palace and Emerald Buddha Temple. The scenery of the area is absolutely breathtaking, though the weather that accompanies it has managed to fire areas of my skin. Seeing the temple was reminiscent to my visit to the Sistine Chapel last year, as there were many guards to enforce the rules of no photography/video, no shoes inside, and being quiet. The first 2 rules I mentioned were readily enforced. As exhibited by 2 individuals, the guards made delete photos they took on the inside. The quiet they were lenient on. Following the holy site visits, we walked to a taxi boat service and enjoyed a ride on the Chao Phraya River. Many local residents have homes along the riverbank, and a view of architectural sites really gave the place a historic feeling. Plus, getting to feed some catfish in the river itself was an interesting experience. After the boat ride, we had lunch at a nearby buffet before we went back to the hotel for a couple hours. Censored-girl who felt ill finally made an appearance before our dinner with classical Thai dances. It was good to see her up and moving, but as mentioned before, she wasn't up for trying anything really exotic. She mostly had water and a couple pieces of watermelon. Chatter among the group shows she may have tried to eat too much at one point, aggravating her condition. I guess we just have to learn the hard way sometimes. Sounds like another has been found ill, likely due to not being used to the conditions of the area. She, her siblings, and their maybe mother opted out of the dinner, seemingly due to motion sickness. Though, she didn't seem to have much trouble with our flights into the area since they were fairly turbulent. It should be noted the second child succumbed to illness is one of the problem ones I mentioned before. March 22nd, 2017. Another temple visit was done today as my group enjoyed a nice bus ride to the Grand Summer Palace. Shade from the many gardens helped keep us cool for the majority, as we checked out the architecture inspired by Chinese styles. Afterwards, we stopped briefly for shopping before going on a tram ride into a historical area. Truthfully, I can barely understand our tour guide, and it was hard to hear due to noise. The scenery continued to impress, and an elephant ride vendor was also nearby. After, we had a buffet lunch and boat ride along our way back to Bangkok and to our hotel. I have actually been impressed with the local cuisine, enjoying it much more than I was anticipating, thanks to warnings of monkey ball soup. So far, there has yet to be an incident similar to Xi'an, which I hope is how it stays for the rest of the trip. March 23rd, 2017. Last night was our semi-last night in Bangkok. We will have one more night on our last day, but today we took our bus from Bangkok to Kanchanaburi. On the way, we stopped at the Death Railway Museum, the floating market, and a brief visit to a coconut plantation. The coconut plantation was a rather interesting experience, as it not only harvests local vegetation, but it houses several cool animals. According to our tour director, Censored, some of the animals serve as important help on the plantation, but are very well treated. There were squirrels, fighter fish, some catfish, eels, gibbons, and a large python, who looked like he had just had a good lunch. The tour company that arranged this trip tries to monitor local attractions to make sure everything will be safe for their travelers, and the companies run like they should, so no danger was there. I was also able to pick up a couple souvenirs here. The market was an interesting experience. We rode there on a 20-minute klong ride, which took us through the backyard of many residents. We stopped at the market itself, which had many cool souvenirs, but nothing that caught my interest. Censored. Recommended we try a mango sticky rice that was sold there, and trying to be a bit more adventurous on this trip, I had some. As we were trying to get it, though, an older woman ambushed me with a massage using tiger balm. The massage sucked, and my too damn kind travel face got me into buying 4 of the stupid things, which I am going to have to toss because I won't be able to take them on the plane. It won't be a waste of money since the exchange rate here is amazing coming from US dollars. 1 Thailand baht is roughly 3 cents in US dollars. Afterwards was the Death Railway Museum, housed information from Japanese WW2 POW camp information. The sights depicted were truly heart-wrenching for the normals. Ever start to wonder whether the horrible things that happened will repeat? Censored stayed close to me for most of this trip, often saying she's seeking safety in tall people. The hotel the company hooked us up in Kanchanaburi is absolutely amazing. It is a resort located right on the river bank, and it is not far from the controversial Tiger Temple. Our guide said the resort itself translated to Sweet Honeybee. I honestly wouldn't mind if I were stranded here for a while. There is plenty to do. 2 pools, an archery course, paintball and BB gun course, bicycle and ATV rentals, a deer park, a nice outdoor restaurant, and plenty of scenery to enjoy while on a hike. The wildlife here and fantasy decorations make for nice touch-ups. Hell, there was Spider-Man hanging out by the restaurant. March 24th, 2017. A wonderful day outdoors, with a river swim, train ride, and a hike down Hellfire Pass. It wasn't planned to necessarily be too much of an educational day, but more of a fun day in the tropics for the kids. I will have to admit, the river was a little intimidating as someone who sinks better than he swims, but I'm proud of myself for doing it. The boat took us upriver past a small waterfall and dropped us off at a calm point. We were all required by law to wear a life vest. Surprisingly, they had one that fit me, due to the current having a reputation for taking tourists underneath some of the boats and them not making it out. The danger factor was somehow appealing to me. The danger in itself didn't really arise till trying to get back on the boat as the current was getting worse and trying to rip off my shorts. We took one of our group photos in the mentioned waterfall. The next item on the list was a ride on the Death Railway, a train system built by Japanese POWs. It was quite an interesting ride through some of Thailand's mountain system, a huge plethora of tropical jungles, monkeys, and other exotic animals I was hardly able to photograph. Oh well, the elephants are coming up soon enough. Hellfire Pass was an interesting hike. It contained some remnants of the original tracks from the Death Railway. Memorials to British and Australian POWs were along the path. A new display was actually being built at the bottom of the trail, but it looked like it would be a couple months before it was finished. March 25th, 2017. Today was a transfer day as we drove further into the Thai countryside. The bus ride was long and uncomfortable due to a tailbone injury I sustained at the last hotel. Keeping up with some of these kids is literally injuring me. Our first stop was at another temple, which was known for its fortune-telling and make-a-wish activities. Naturally, I tried my hand at both. The fortune-telling was set up to operate like this. Place a coin into a slot that corresponds to the day of the week one was born. wait for the spinning roulette light to stop on a number, then take a piece of paper that corresponded to that number. Mine landed on number 1, naturally, and according to the translation from our tour director, my fortune involved dreams coming true, always stay in good health, lucky in love but not in gambling. The Make-A-Wish was a bit more like a prayer ritual. One had to pay 20 baht for a bell they can write their name on, ring the bell, then make the wish facing a giant Buddha statue. My wish was to simply have everyone in my family find the answers they've been looking for, and for a peaceful ending for what is to come. I know it probably defeats the entire purpose of the wish, having jotted it down in these pages, but it is still worth mentioning. After the temple, we drove for another 2 hours till we reached our lunch reservation at a nice little resort. The layout of that resort was a lot more reminiscent of the river at home, but it was not the last stop. There was a pepper plantation near the resort, which led up to our director suggesting we try the fried chicken. Like much of the Thai cuisine I've had a chance to try out while over here, I actually quite enjoyed it. From lunch, we went straight to our hotel, which led to many of us diving straight for the pool when we got settled. I'm sure going to miss these kids, and I should try to keep in touch with all of them when this is all over. There's already talk of meeting again on my old teacher's next trip, Scotland and Ireland. March 26, 2017. The end-trip depression has begun. Everyone has the excited to go home but sad to leave here mentality. I try to keep reminding them that the best things to do are to plan the next trip and keep in touch with one another. Anyway, we visited an umbrella factory today. They made the old-school straw umbrellas that typically aren't seen outside of performances in the modern day. Several painters were there that offered to design anything given to them. Hell, you could have them paint your face if you wanted to. After a tour and a stop in the market, some of the kids tried to convince me to get painted on my head after seeing a photo displayed of an older gentleman with a similar hairline to my own doing the same. I pointed out to them that the heat and humidity may screw up the look, and that our tour director mentioned where we liked to hit the pool every chance we got would have the same effect. So we settled on getting my camera case done. It was only 100 baht, which is a little less than 3 USD. After the umbrella factory, we had a short stop at a silver factory, which showed us a brief tutorial on how to spot real silver before we were able to do some shopping. I walked around a bit, checking out some of the designs that were available, but didn't buy anything, due to most of the people I would buy for would probably ruin them. After dinner, our tour guide hooked us up with a tuk-tuk ride. We were in Chiang Mai at the time, and our drivers actually started to challenge one another. We had 3 stops, 2 at markets and by the U.S. Embassy, and our last stop naturally being our hotel. My friend, Censored, and I rode together the entire time, and our driver happened to be the one who pushed the others into the race to show us a good time, though one of the drivers happened to rear-end a car on the way through.